What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today's video, we are going to be talking about a book we haven't talked about in some time, and that is Dan Slott's Fantastic Four. We haven't revisited this series in quite some time, but some interesting things have happened in the last couple of weeks, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. Just it struck me as something that was, worth discussing. So we are going to be talking about the Fantastic Four, number 25 by Dan Slott and R.B. Silva, a title called There Shall Come a Reckoning. And in this video, we are going to finally witness how Franklin Richards becomes an Omega level mutant no more. And we're also going to witness one of Reed's biggest, deepest, and darkest secrets that he's ever kept from anyone, including his own family. A secret that could literally undo the fabric of time, space, and all reality. We're going to talk about all this and more right now. But first, wash your damn hands. And let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple eyes. You can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click.
Okay, so in this book, we're introduced to 2 characters who we've not seen before, one of which is the Helmsman. The Helmsman, it controls another character called the Cormorant. Now, one thing we can know for sure beyond all reasonable doubt is that the Cormorant is incredibly powerful, virtually indestructible, and is a being so potent and so powerful that he literally flew into the Baxter building from just outside of Earth's atmosphere and completely levels the building, taking out everyone inside it. Now, of course, we know we don't have to worry about the Fantastic Four here because they haven't been living in the Baxter building for most of the Dan Slott run. As a matter of fact, the Baxter building is now inhabited by the Fantastics, a team that made its first appearance in Fantastic Four, Volume 6, Number 4 of Dan Slott's run back in January of 2019. The characters 2D, Hope, Iceberg, and Ms. Fantastics. Characters who used to be the Libertines, and in the Fantastic Four's absence and then subsequently their return to Earth, they wound up becoming, I guess, the new almost Fantastic Four. They're characters that are very eerily similar in scope and likeness to the Fantastic Four, but at the end of it all, the Fantastic Four allowed the Fantastics to keep the Baxter building while they stayed on 4 Yancey Street. Well, the Fantastics have been taken out. They're not dead, but they're probably feeling every bit of pain you would imagine anyone would feel if a building came down on top of them. Now, we look at the Cormorant. He is such a powerful and potent character, so the Helmsman must be somebody of incredible capabilities because even as powerful as the Cormorant is, he's subservient to the Helmsman, even though he doesn't seem to be very interested in whatever it is that the Helmsman's trying to do and kind of seems to want to do things his own way, but the Helmsman is powerful enough to compel him to think otherwise. And lo and behold, this threat actually ties into something else that's going on with the Fantastic Four, and that's the Invisible Woman, who has been running Black Ops for Nick Fury on the slick, infiltrating places that Nick Fury needs infiltrated, and, sabotaging or returning things that Nick Fury needs sabotaged or returned. A secret that she has been keeping for her family for a good little bit. But where things get messy is when Nick Fury asks her to go infiltrate Dr. Doom's Latverian embassy. Now, Dr. Doom is not going to be there, so it actually kind of works out, and Nick Fury even says that the thing he needs her to do, she can get in there and do it and be gone before anyone even notices that she's not around, which is made even more funny by the fact that she even admits that no one would notice if she was gone anyway. The reason why I bring all this up is because Dr. Doom actually is there, and it just so happens that the thing that Nick Fury wants Sue to go get happens to be what Cormorant is looking for at the behest of the Helmsman. This leads leads to Cormorant taking the object that Sue is supposed to retrieve and then realizing it's not what they were looking for. Because Dr. Doom has set the object to self-destruct. You see, Dr. Doom has actually been anticipating this character showing up. He's been keeping an eye out for these sorts of things, and he knew that the creature was going to come and try and take the thing that he has. So he set it to self-destruct. And when it does, the helmsman reveals that, well, if it could be destroyed, it's not what we're looking for, and the Cormorant actually wants to destroy Doom. But the helmsman tells the Cormorant to not even waste another thought on the man. He is beneath us. This leads to Sue and Dr. Doom having a very interesting conversation about keeping secrets that Sue has been keeping from her family, and also more importantly, the secrets that Reed has been keeping from her. Dr. Doom knows what Reed is up to, but he doesn't really know the whole story. He just knows that Reed has been keeping a secret for a good long while. You see, Boy Supreme Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, or should be called Mr. Boy, he has in fact been keeping a secret, and the second that Sue asks him if there's anything that he has been keeping from her, any kind of a mystery box, any kind of a mystery item that he's been keeping a secret, Reed is actually oddly forthcoming for a change, and it's all hands on deck. Well, at least except for the children. Reed is leaving Valyria, and the recently picked up Joe and Nikki, both Kree and Skrull children that they picked up during the Empire story arc, they're leaving them behind to stay with Alicia, you know, a blind babysitter, to guard children who are A, probably smarter than her, and B, more powerful than her. This will work out beautifully. But the one kid they are going to take with them is Franklin Richards. And the reason why is because he is, of everyone in the group, he is the most powerful. Even if his powers have been waxing and waning, it doesn't matter. He is still the most powerful being on the planet for the most part. And of course, we get back to the scene we saw earlier where the Cormorant had destroyed the Baxter building. And of course, this goes about the way you expected. Dr. Doom's not able to stop him. The Thing, of course, yeah, because the Thing always rushes in the battle, talking about what his old sweet Aunt Petunia would say it. The Thing gets yeeted across the New York City skyline, not too dissimilarly from the way that Onslaught once yeeted the Juggernaut into Earth's orbit back during the early days of the Onslaught X-Men story arc. So at this point, it's time to unleash the big guns. It's time to unleash Franklin Richards, who up to this point, you know, leading up to this very moment, he's been spending a lot of time on Krakoa, even though we actually haven't seen this depicted so much in the actual X-Men books itself. When we actually see Franklin earlier in this issue, we see when Johnny comes to visit him that he has pretty much redecorated his room. He has portraits of Dazzler on the wall. He's got Juggernaut statues, even though Juggernaut's not a mutant. He also has an X-Men symbol, the current X-Men symbol, on his desktop as his wallpaper and or screensaver. And when Johnny asks what he's listening to, he says, "Oh, it's mutant music. You wouldn't get it." You know, he's completely bought in, hook, line, and sinker into this whole mutant thing. He's embracing who he truly is. And it's something that I think is really awesome, considering the fact that, once again, I talked about this during the X-Men Fantastic Four crossover miniseries that was out not too long ago. A lot of writers have really not done much with his being a mutant. Probably the closest we've ever gotten is Jonathan Hickman when he was on the Fantastic Four comic. And I mean, let's be fair, neither of the Fantastic Four treated him much like a mutant. Not saying, you know, they haven't called him mutie or anything to his face, but it's just like one of those things like, oh yeah, you're a mutant, but whatever. And it's one of those situations where like, it was really cool to see that he's embracing it. He's in love with it. And he's embraced who he is so much that he brings together all of his power. He's literally been waiting for the moment that he could finally unleash his abilities on, you know, something. And when he comes toe to toe with the Cormorant, he chin checks that bad boy so hard that literally the power wave can be felt across the entire battlefield. He is laying into the Cormorant, like even Reed is having to put some respect on his kid's name. And even though Sue is trying to say that he's just a boy, Doom comes out and says what I think a lot of us have been thinking for a long time, is that you can't diminish what he is. You can't just call, I mean, yeah, he's your son, of course, yeah, he's your boy. But the thing is, he's also one of the most powerful beings in all existence. The problem is, it doesn't work. Cormorant is so powerful that not even Franklin Richards can stop him. This is why I always make the argument that just because you're a reality warper doesn't mean that you can defeat anybody. Now, one can make the argument that his powers had diminished, they'd waxed and waned, but here's the thing, his powers still worked. They didn't work any less than they did before. It's just that the more he uses his powers, the more they likely are to go away. But the Cormorant puts some respect on Richard's name. He says that you are the only being I I have ever met in all of existence who could actually challenge me in any way, shape, form, or fashion, and that you have my respect, and I will remember you always. Sue is able to save Franklin from getting wrecked using her force fields because the Cormorant is about to try and kill him. The real big deal, though, is the fact that Franklin used up the last of his powers. He can't feel his powers anymore. He can't feel his connection to reality and the multiverse and the great swell of power that he had within himself since he was a much younger kid. But there is one thing that he can do, that one place he knows he can go to get the help that he needs, and he rushes to the Krakoan Gateway, not far from the Baxter Building. All he's got to do, rush through the gate, and next thing you know, a bazillion X-Men are waiting on the other side, and then they'll have an army to take on the Cormorant and Bob's your uncle. But there's only one problem. Since he used up the last of his powers, his X gene is pretty much gone. And if he doesn't have an X gene, he can't go through the gate. This leads to the Cormorant literally running roughshod on everybody. And finally, he finds what he's looking for. Finally, Reed owns up about what it is that's in the box that the Cormorant's looking for, and it's something called Container Zero. And the reason why that it's in the Baxter Building is because it's a fixed point. It's locked in space. And the fact that the Cormorant can manipulate it in any way, shape, form, or fashion lets Reed know that the Cormorant is even that much more dangerous. Cormorant is willing to open it despite the fact that if he does open it, despite Reed's warnings, he could possibly destroy all reality by doing so. So Reed convinces Sue to make the casing invisible so the Cormorant can see exactly what's inside, and despite that, he still cracks it open anyway. And when he does so, it unleashes what's called the Zero Force, what Doom refers to as pre-primordial power that predates our very existence. He's even more shocked that Reed discovered it before him. A new force that has been unleashed into the Marvel Universe. We don't know what it is exactly, but what we do know, and what we do learn later, is that whatever it is, that it basically can rewrite reality. It can literally replace the world that they are standing in with a completely different world. The power is wild and untamable. And to make it even more funny, this is also not what the Cormorant was looking for. And once he realizes it, he simply leaves. Which makes this even more interesting to me because the Cormorant is such a force of nature. Not only is the Cormorant incredibly powerful, but doesn't really seem to care about the consequences of their actions if those actions and those consequences don't ultimately lead to them getting what they want. Such an alien creature, and I kind of love it. It's like something you would find in Star Trek. But this time, it's going to come down to the combined might of Dr. Doom and Reed Richards. They have to work together. The thing is, they actually don't have to worry about how they're going to take this thing down. You see, it just so happens, back at 4 Yancey Street, Valeria Richards, who doesn't have any superpowers, but she is one of the smartest beings on the face of the planet, and in a lot of regards, she's even smarter than her dad. She's even proven it in some instances. And what has been going on is that since Empire, she's actually been working on a little device, some kind of a teleporter, and she's been using all of these different bits of technology from across the universe. She's been using Kree technology, a little bit of the Omniwave projector. She's even used some ideas from the Grievers telepods, and one of the things that I thought was even the most interesting is that she's even used some biomatter that makes this not unlike the Krakoan gateways. The only problem is she hasn't found a way to tie it all together, and while Alicia is too busy trying to keep them under wraps, Nikki, the new Skrull child who's been hanging out with the Fantastic Four lately as of Empire, she transforms herself into the classic Fantastic Four version of She-Hulk and uses her likeness to override the computer's identification protocols and allows them to use the Fantastic Car to get to where Cormorant is. Valeria, realizing what's going on, seeing these energy levels kicking off, using the Fantastic Car, flies the device directly into the Zero Force. And when she does so, the device she created begins restructuring itself around the Zero Force, turning it into the most powerful device in all of the Marvel Comics universe, because not only is this a teleporter now, but this is now a teleporter that basically could give anyone access to anywhere in the universe at any time, at any point in reality. Think the Krakoan gateways, but they can take you so many more places. Something that Doom even calls a forever gate. Now, Reed doesn't seem to be too happy about it because, once again, this is something that any villain would probably try to steal. So this actually leads to the Fantastic Four reclaiming the Baxter Building, or what's left of it, from the Fantastics, who seem more than happy to let them have it back. And Dr. Doom leaves victorious to stay behind and basically act as his ambassador here in New York, leaving her there pretty much to help keep an eye on the Fantastic Four and the Forever Gate. This gateway is really interesting for a multitude of reasons, because we must remember that, I believe it was Excalibur number 12, we saw Apocalypse create an external gate using the bones of the other externals, and this was supposed to be a gate that allowed them to travel to more than just places across space and across the Earth, but to travel the multiverse as well, because it was supposed to be a way to get into Otherworld, but that gate has been destroyed. So now the Fantastic Four basically created what Apocalypse did, only they still have access to theirs. I'm telling you, man, there's another parlay that's coming, and it's gonna be interesting. But I mean, wrap your mind around that. Valeria Richards created something that Apocalypse went through great pains to create, and she just upped and made it. That's pretty freaking cool. Now, this does lead to some very uncomfortable truths by the end of all this, because Reed and Sue have to reconcile the fact that they've both been keeping secrets from one another. The fact that Reed has been keeping this thing 3 sub-basements below the Baxter Building. He's been keeping this thing a secret in the Baxter Building since after they first met Galactus and before they met the Black Panther. Since Galactus first appeared in Fantastic Four number 48 in March 1966, and the Black Panther first appeared in Fantastic Four number 52 in July of 1966. This means that somewhere between those 2 months, April, May, or June, is roughly about when they did this, at least publication-wise, about roughly April, May, or June of 1966. That's in publication time. This would also put this before the births of either of their children, and for those who are not familiar, Franklin Richards first appeared in Fantastic Four Annual number 6 in November of 1968, and Valeria, though technically she was conceived in Fantastic Four number 254 in 1983, she was actually miscarried in the following Fantastic Four number 267 issue in 1984. Technically, she actually didn't appear in Marvel Comics continuity until Fantastic Four Volume 3 number 54 in 2002. So yeah, so publication-wise, he's been keeping the secret since 1966, though granted, he's also been keeping the secret like in Marvel timeline continuity. In the actual Marvel time, has been well over a decade and a half. Now, on the other end of that, Reed is also known about Sue's coming and goings for Nick Fury. It's one of those things, secrets, they always come out. What's done in the dark eventually comes to light. Something my grandmother used to tell me all the time. And then of course we know that Valeria is kind of going on a roll here and kind of embracing that side of herself that, you know, is very much like her father, but also not too dissimilar from Dr. Doom. She's going on a roll here. She is actually working out equations. She's trying to figure out the next big thing. And she even mentions solving problems Dad couldn't figure out for over a decade. Wait till they see what you do next. The saddest part, though, is when we get to Franklin Richards, who has torn down everything he had, anything related to him being a mutant. The posters, he's torn them all apart, and he's sitting in his room sulking because he finally found a home. He finally found a place where he belonged. He finally found something that made him feel whole, and now it's been taken away from him. So yeah, I normally don't cover Fantastic Four stuff, but I saw this issue and I finally sat down and kind of, you know, read it, and I was like, wow, this actually was really cool. I actually really enjoyed this. This was something that was, you know, really awesome. I also think it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out, because we do know that in the future, Franklin Richards is still around and he's apparently gotten his powers back. So it does lead me to wonder, like, if, you know, is this the beginning of the road to the reclamation of his powers, or is Dan Slott going to sit on this one for a while? Because I don't know if he plans to have as long of a run on Fantastic Four as he has had on Spider-Man in the past, but if he does, it'd be really interesting to see where he goes with this. He may not even address this right away. He actually may make Franklin wallow in this one for a while. We don't know yet, but I'm really curious to see where it goes. And maybe after 10 of Swords is wrapped up, maybe we'll see, you know, some stuff going on with, you know, people looking into Franklin Richards. We know that Beast has already kind of looked into him and has, you know, expressed an interest in trying to help him figure out how to, you know, stop the deconstruction of his powers. And we also know, thanks to Marvel Incoming, that Mr. Sinister has been keeping an eye on Franklin Richards. It's the one set of DNA he really wanted to get his hands on and kind of mess around with. So I do wonder if Mr. Sinister may play a role in this somewhere down the road, and we'll see another X-Men Fantastic Four crossover. I feel like it's inevitable at this point, but I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about this. How do you feel about Franklin Richards not only no longer being an Omega level mutant, but not being a mutant at all? And not only that, but Valeria, who kind of was spurned by the X-Men during the X-Men Fantastic Four crossover, kind of figuring out how to create something, albeit accidentally, that the X-Men now have, and she made a better version of it. Wash your damn hands and sound off in the comments. So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, and tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in $1, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra.